Hello guys, this is Cloverboy here, and I want to talk about my Dark World deck profile for February 2024. This is a deck profile that focuses a little bit on the format right now against Fire King, against Droll. So I've built a variant that's a little bit better against those hand traps, and you're still able to play low to the ground, and you're still able to achieve the Dark World things that you want to normally achieve. So I want to start by talking about the Dark World monsters first. I have 3 copies of Genta. This is your combo starter, of course. This is how you access gates. Then you have 3 copies of Snow. This is your searcher. You discard it. You get any Dark Roll card that you want. Then I have 2 copies of Grafa for the fusion. I like running it at 2 instead of 1 because if it gets banished, if it gets disrupted or anything like that, you still have a way of like using the other one for your fusions. You know, you want your fusion to be live. Then I have 1 copy of Rainbow. This is the one thing that's a little bit different from all the other Dark World decks. It's searchable, so you don't really need to worry about like having it more than one. Other than that, it tends to be a little bit bricky. Again, you can search Grafas in other ways. You can add your Silva through other ways. So Rainbow 1, you really don't need more than one. Then I have 2 Silvas and 1 Cerily. This is for the hand loop, of course. Silva is on a similar reason than Grafa. If it gets disrupted, banished by Diddy Crow, banished by Bestial, something like that, you still would rather have the second copy in your deck somewhere. If it gets, like, you don't want to get disrupted and then not have access to your hand loop for the rest of the game. This is also your way to, like, bounce back your level 8s and stuff, right? And then lastly, I have the Garnet, Rainbow Overlord. Not a good card. It can come up going second with its effect. If it gets discarded by an opponent, it destroys everything in the back row or destroys everything, every monster. So it can come up. Generally, you're only going to use it for the Chlorless Fusion. So that's all for the Dark World monsters. Let's talk a little bit about my next engine, which is 2 Nessies, 2 Mothmans, 1 Chupacabra, and 1 Jackalope. This is the Danger engine. It's a little bit smaller. There's no level 8s because we don't rely on level 8s in this version of the build. And these are the ones where if they get hit, you at least are able to do something with them, unlike Bigfoot. So you could argue Nessie at 3, but the reason I have it at 2 is because I don't like seeing him too often. And I like Mothman. I like my second copy of Mothman for my rank 4 plays. So that's all for the Danger cards. Now, let's talk a little bit about my next engine. So I have 3 Tour Guides and 1 Doom Dog. So Tour Guide, on normal summon and normal summon only, it special summons a level 3 Fiend monster from the deck, and Doom Dog, when it gets sent from the field to the graveyard, it has a level 8 Fiend monster. So this is how I'm searching for Rainbow. And this is what's going to enable my link plays. This is another part of my combo starter. You want to see this with Genta, or you want to see this with Dark Corridor to get a pretty good combo. Then after that, I have 1 Shavara, which this is how you enable your Unchained cards, is with the Tour Guide package. And this is the 1 copy, the only main deck monster of Unchained that I run in this deck. Pretty good card. I wish it was a 2 or 3 at least, but like, again, I understand why I got hit on the ban list. We only needed the 1, so you're gonna see how we're gonna use it in the combo. And here, lastly, my last tech monster is Salamander Catalyzer, because it's the perfect card for Dark World. It's a level 4 Fiend monster that discards another monster to special summon itself. Easy access to rank 4 plays, easy access to Fiend Link plays. What more can you ask for, right? Only problem is that it's not a dark, so it's not on a lower target, but other than that, it's a pretty amazing card. So that's all for the monsters. That's 25 monsters. Now let's talk about the spells. Starting with the Dark World spells, I have 3 gates, I have 2 corridors, I have 1 accession, and 1 archives. 3 gates, you can argue you could run this at 2 because it might be a little bit bricky seeing it on your opening hand, but I like doing this because I only need 1 copy of Genta in this variant of the build to use all 3 gates in 1 turn. So I like running this at 3, and it's not too bad if you open 2 of them. It's very easy to send a few monsters from your hand to the graveyard in this variant of the build, so I like running it at 3. Corridor, You could argue whatever ratios you want to run. If you want to see it very little, if you want to see it too often, do 3 and 1, whatever you want. I like doing 2 because I like seeing it often, not too often. Dark World Accession for the fusions, of course, and Dark World Archives for the extender. This card, I'd argue it would be the first one that you need to search off of Snow if you have a Dark World monster on the field already. So that way you get your extended plays. You get so many draws, so many discards off of this. So now for the tech spells, I have 3 Allure of Darkness. Of course, I run 23 dark monsters in the deck. They will come up. 2 Talents because it's the best board breaker in the format, and also can go life thanks to Cerily, so you can get further draws, steal, look at their hand, etc. Then 1 card Destruction. This card is extremely funny in this deck. If you have 4 Dark World monsters and then you activate card Destruction, you have a chain 4. Generally, I actually like using this to bait Ash Blossom. Other than that, side this card out against like graveyard focus matchups. You don't want to use this against Tearlament. You're going to have a very bad day. But other than that, if you activate this, the opponent has to respond, or they're going to have a bad day. Then I have 1 Call by the Grave because you want to fight against Droll. Obviously, you want to fight against Shifter. This is another way to fight back, and it's not too bad if like it doesn't go live. You just set it and then wait for the next turn. This is pretty good disruption as well. That's all for the spells. That's 14 spells for the 1 trap of Escape of the Unchained. Of course, I have Shavara running this as an extra disruption, so what's not to love? Now let's talk a little bit about the extra deck. I run 1 Grapha Fusion, of course, the Dark World boss monster. I only run it at 1 because now I have Chlorless. I feel like after turn 2 and 3, you want to focus a little bit more on this guy instead, because this guy is like blows up the board and can swing for game very easily compared to this guy, who it's pretty good at disrupting, right? And then you get so much advantage of this disruption. But this is generally what you want to go for, going second and going third, right? So that's all for the fusions, correct? Now let's talk a little bit about XC. So I have my first rank 4, Garrus, a Dark World monster basically. It's a fiend monster that draws 2 and discards 1. Please keep in mind that you will skip your next draw phase when that happens. And it's also good if you're going second. You just put it there, have a big boss monster, say namely Chlorless, and then you can double his attack for the battle phase. Guarantees OTKs, right? So, very good card. Then 1 Baguska. You could argue Baguska is not necessary, at least in this format. There's a lot of link decks running around. There's a lot of graveyard decks running around. So Baguska does not actually force too many things out of the opponent this format. I just think that for the shifter decks, specifically like Kastira and Floowandereeze, this would be very useful to have. Because, okay, you get shifter, you don't really have much. You just put this on defense position, and then you pass. That's the classic. Then I have 1 Typhon. Be mindful that it's a fiend, so if you have Gates of Dark World, you cannot activate his bounce effect. So make sure you're activating his bounce effect before you activate Gates of Dark World, and you can swing for 32. But that's a pretty good card still, this format, right? When all else fails, you can still use that. Now let's talk a little bit about links. I have 1 Yama, 1 Rage, and 1 Anguish. This is my Unchained package. You argue this one is not super necessary. You can only do with these 2. So if you want the extra space in the extra deck, then go for it. Take that off. But I like using this because this is part of my Unchained tour guide combo I have for Dark World. Other than that, you understand like why these are so good. Every other fiend monster is running this engine, or every other fiend deck rather is running that engine. So I'll get a little bit more into why it's so good in this one too. Then I have 1 Muckraker, another Dark World card. This discards from the hand as an effect to revive any fiend monsters. What I like doing is I like using this whenever my Grapha Fusion or my Soul of Rage have been sent to the graveyard already. I like bringing them back. You don't get the effect of reviving Grapha after special summoning this guy, so be mindful that not all the effects are live for this card. That's all for that. Then I have my hand loopers, or the ones who enable the full hand loop rather. Normally, people say that Akashic Magician tends to be more important than Security Dragon, but in this version, I use Security Dragon because he co-links with Solar Rage. Solar Rage will most of the time occupy your extra monster zone, so this is how you use to bounce your Cerily if you want to keep hand looping. Akashic Magician still comes up, but you could argue this one can be taken out. And then lastly, for the last link too, is the Dark Charmer. What can I say? You have to play this card in this format. It's if somebody has a Diabell star, this is how you extend with your link plays. If somebody destroys this, that way you can search for any dark monster with 1500 or less attack. It's very useful to have. It's not the most mandatory card for this deck, at least. I just think it's very good. This format is very good to extend and very good to remove things out of the graveyard too. And if you're playing against a dark deck, even better. So that is all for the link 2. So let's talk a little bit about my link 3, which is Nightmare Unicorn. I don't have SP, I'm a little broke, so I have this instead. But you could argue you could take one of those cards I already showed out and play SP and this one also. This is very good to bounce. This is usually what you will like link climb into after Solar Rage, and then you get an extra bounce in the opponent's turn. Extremely useful. You can get 3 disruptions of like 1 Unchained interaction, so highly recommend this card still. But again, could be SP Little Knight, right? Who doesn't love SP Little Knight? Then I have 1 Apple. You don't always end on Apple in this end board, but whenever you do, your end board's pretty solid. You get a hand loop, you get your Unchained cards, and you get this. Amazing. And then lastly, Goddess of the Underworld. White Woman Jump Scare. So what can I say? You don't run Kaijus in the main deck. You don't run Kaijus in the side deck, at least not for me. So this is what I like doing to combat against towers. And it negates graveyard effects and negates everything that's currently on board. So what's not to love? So that's all for the Dark Roll main deck and extra deck. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the combos. So this is the main Dark Roll combo I want to talk about using the Tour Guide package. All you need is these 2 cards. Instead of Corridor, it could be Genta. It doesn't matter. I like using Corridor first because it's safer on the droll, and we'll show you why in a second. I'm going to show you the full combo first without being droll. We're going to start by using a normal summon on Tour Guide. Tour Guide is going to activate her effect to add a level 3 fiend monster and special summon it. Then we're going to link them off. Now, Doomdog, because it got sent from the field to the graveyard, is going to search for a level 8 fiend monster. And Yama, because it got special summon, it's going to add an Unchained monster from the deck to the hand. So with Yama's effect, we add Shavara. And with Doomdog's effect, we add Rainbow. Then after this, we activate our Dark Corridor to search for a Dark Roll monster and discard a card. So we're going to add Genta, and we're going to be discarding our Rainbow. Rainbow is going to be activating his effect of adding a level 5 or higher Dark Roll monster. We're going to be adding our Silva. From here on, we activate Genta's effect, discarding it to add our Gates of Dark World. This is our first copy that we're going to use. We're going to activate it. Then we're going to activate its effect on the field to banish Genta, discard a fiend monster from your hand, and draw a card. Doesn't matter what it is. Could be better if it's a snow, if it's anything else, but in this case, it doesn't really matter. There's the baseline combo. Then we're going to trigger a chain, Silva, because it got discarded to special, Genta, because it got banished with a Dark Roll in the field to special also. So we're going to go ahead and special them both. And then we're going to return one of them to the hand. Doesn't matter who it is. You'll see why. To special summon Rainbow. Now here, I'm going to link them off into Soul of Anguish. And then before you do anything else, go ahead and return your Silva back to the hand, thanks to Rainbow again. So it didn't really matter who you return first, because you can return them both. Then before we move on, I'm going to go ahead and use Genta's effect again to add my second copy of Gates. And from here on, I'm going to go ahead and pop Soul of Anguish with Shavara to special summon it. This can target a fiend monster to destroy and special summon itself. Be mindful that while this effect resolves, you're locked into fiend monsters until this guy leaves the field. Then Anguish on destruction will add a fiend monster from the graveyard back to the hand. So we're going to go ahead and add our Genta. Depending on what you have in your graveyard, you might want something else. Maybe you have the rainbow in the graveyard. I think that would be fine also if you want to search for like another Agrafa or another Silva, for example. But here we're going to search Genta. And guess what? We're going to activate his effect one more time to add our last copy of Gates of Dark World. So that's how you use Genta with only one copy to add our 3 copies of Gates of Dark World. Now, from here on, I like linking into our Soul of Rage. This is part of our end board monster. Then Shavara, because it got sent to the graveyard, it's going to set a spell or trap, an Unchained spell or trap from the deck. So I'm going to set my 1 copy of Escape of the Unchained. And that's how we have some disruptions. After that, you just activate your gates, right? So gates activates again, banishes. I don't like banishing Genta after this. I like keeping Genta in the graveyard for my other turns. That way, if I have to banish it next turn, I at least, you know, have this special summon ability. Because remember, you can only special summon him once per turn. You discard Silva, and then you draw again. Again, doesn't matter. Silva with special summon. And then you return it with rainbow, and then you do the same thing. Again, switch out, banish any other few monsters. It'll be Doomdog in this case, discard Silva, and draw a card. And it will special summon. So of those 2 cards alone, you got 3 draws. Remember that you have 3 extra cards in your hand, and then you have 2 other monsters besides your Unchained disruptions. Remember that if Unchained cards get destroyed, or if any card gets destroyed, Yama will activate his effect from the graveyard to banish itself and special summon from the grave. So this is a pretty good way of combat low to the ground if you want, and you can still do your Dark World plays after this. You can link into an Apple, you can link into Security Dragon. The world's your oyster. So that's combo number 1. Now let me show you how to play against Droll using those 2 cards. Okay, so using these 2 cards, here's how you fight under Droll. So we're going to start by doing the same thing. We use our normal summon on Tour Guide, and Tour Guide's going to special summon Doomdog, a level 3 fiend monster, and we're going to go ahead and choose link it off. And to Yama. So we're going to trigger the chain again. Chain 1 Doomdog, chain 2 Yama, 2 add Shavara, and 2 add Rainbow. Now we added things to hand, and the opponent decides to hit us with a Droll and Lockbird. Now, when you see this in the opponent's graveyard, you think to yourself, from this hand, it's over. If you're a regular Dark World player, we're not going to stop our plays from here. And what we're going to do, instead of activating Dark Corridor, obviously because we can activate it, we're going to go ahead and set it. And what Shavara is going to do is that not only can it target like fiend monsters to destroy and special summon itself, it can also target set cards. So we're going to go ahead and activate Shavara's effect in the hand, target or set card, and then special summon him. And then we're going to go ahead and just link him off into our Soul of Rage. Then Shavara is going to activate his effect of setting the Unchained trap from the deck onto the field. And then if you have any further plays, if you can do rank 4, you can probably have a Baguska. But from here on, we're going to go ahead and pass. Now, this might not seem very strong to you, but think about it. You have 3 interactions, or 3 possible interactions you can do off of these 2 cards on the field alone. So in the opponent's turn, let's say that they have a card on the field that they want to keep on the field. You're going to go ahead and activate your Escape of the Unchained, destroying your Soul of Rage and whatever card they control. In this case, it's going to be Droll Lockbird, I guess. And then this is going to trigger a chain reaction. So Soul of Rage, because it got destroyed, you can add a fiend monster back from the graveyard to the hand. So we're going to go ahead and add our Shavara, and then Soul of Rage will, because a card got destroyed from the field, it's going to go ahead and banish itself from the graveyard, and we're going to go ahead and special summon our Soul of Rage again. So now here, say that they have another monster that they summoned, then you activate Soul of Rage's effect, linking this off and their monster, using them as materials for, say, a Nightmare Unicorn. And then with Nightmare Unicorn, you're just going to go ahead and activate his effect into discarding whatever card. It's going to be Rainbow in this case. You don't really care. And then bouncing another card. So off of that, interaction alone, even though we played through Droll, we managed to do the unthinkable with Dark Roll, and we managed to have 3 disruptions. So might not be the best. You might not be used to, you know, playing as Dark Roll. You might be used to like just hand looping, ripping them off, and then just having like a bazillion negates. In this one, we can play a little bit more low to the ground thanks to the Unchained cards, right? So that's how you play through Droll, and that's all. That's gonna be all for this deck profile. Thank you for watching. If you guys have any questions, if you guys have any tips on deck building, if you guys think that y'all will do the deck building a little bit different, but keep the essence of this deck, please let me know down in the comments. My name is Cloverboy. Thanks again for watching. Have a good day.